In 1847, a ship called the Herculean set sail from Liverpool, carrying 847 passengers and cargo whose present-day value would be more than £50,000. It left the crowded, fog-shrouded port behind, slipped into the Atlantic, and was never seen again. No distress signal was ever sent. No wreckage ever washed ashore. No survivors ever told their tale. But here's what's truly astonishing. The Victorian government of the day documented everything about that ship. Every passenger, every item in the hold, right down to the number of chamber pots. And those records? They still exist, preserved in the National Archives, waiting to reveal more than just a list of names, waiting to tell us exactly what unfolded on that fateful night. Today, we're diving into the most meticulously kept secrets in British history. We're going to explore how shipping records from the Victorian era contain unsolved murder mysteries, heartbreaking stories of families torn apart by emigration, and bizarre, almost unbelievable cargo, like the manifest that once recorded 3 live elephants and 1 deceased duchess aboard the same ship. By the end, you might never look at old paperwork the same way again. The Victorians, it must be said, were obsessed with details. Their bureaucracy was on a scale that would put even modern red tape to shame. Every ship leaving a British port had to file a register of passengers. But these weren't simply lists of names. The registers documented everything: age, occupation, place of birth, destination, luggage, even moral character, whatever that meant to the official in charge. Some of these ledgers were works of art, with ornate handwriting and intricate flourishes. They speak to a culture convinced that paperwork could control the chaos of the world. But sometimes, those clerks recorded things they probably shouldn't have. Take the SS Britannia's manifest from 1852. Most entries are mundane: laborer, seamstress, merchant. But one stands out. Under occupation, it reads gentleman, and scrawled in the margin, in a different hand, wanted for murder in Yorkshire. The name? James Wellington Ford. As it turns out, Wellington Ford was traveling under a false identity, bound for Australia, accompanied by none other than his victim's wife. The shipping records didn't just catch a name. They preserved a secret that even the police never solved. In fact, the National Archives contain more than 12 million passenger records from 1830 to 1900. Buried in those pages are stories that would make even the most seasoned crime writer or Netflix executive weep with jealousy. The passenger lists are only the tip of the iceberg. The real secrets, the ones that illuminate the society of the time, are hidden in the cargo manifests. Every ship carried goods, barrels of flour, casks of wine, even exotic animals. Some manifests read like the inventory of a Victorian circus: 3 live elephants, 1 deceased duchess. But cargo manifests also recorded more mundane yet telling details. The Herculean, for example, listed miscellaneous freight weighing over 50 tons, an anomaly that would later fuel much speculation. Behind every line in those ledgers was a human story. Consider Mary O'Sullivan, a 23-year-old Irish woman who boarded the Celtic Dawn in 1847, right in the heart of the potato famine. The record says she traveled alone to New York, but the margins in the handwriting of a ship's doctor reveal more. Mary was pregnant and fleeing an arranged marriage to a man 3 times her age. These supplementary notes were unofficial, but they can be heartbreakingly candid. They hint at the unspoken anxieties of the passengers and the judgments, sometimes sympathetic, sometimes cruel, of the people who observed them. Mary's story doesn't end in New York. 9 months after she set sail, another shipping record appears. This time, Mary O'Sullivan and infant are bound for Ireland. The infant is listed as John Patrick O'Sullivan. But there's a twist. The father's name on the birth certificate isn't unknown. It's Captain Thomas Whitmore, captain of the very ship that carried her away from home. This pattern, we now know, appears again and again in the archives. Young women traveling alone, returning home months later, with infants whose fathers are mysteriously linked to the ship's crew. The National Archives estimate that over 3,000 such cases exist, quietly documented in the margins of official records. The stories aren't always salacious. Sometimes they're simply heartbreaking. Take the Kowalski family from Poland, who arrived in London in 1889 on the SS Warsaw. Stefan Kowalski, a widower, brought his 3 children, hoping to start anew in America. But when the youngest, 4-year-old Anna, developed a minor eye infection, the shipping company's medical officer declared her unfit for passage. Stefan was forced to make a terrible choice: leave Anna behind and continue to America, or forfeit his ticket and stay. He chose the latter, hoping for another chance. Anna recovered within a week, but by then the shipping season had ended. The family spent that winter in the East End slums. By spring, Stefan had died of tuberculosis. Anna, orphaned, never made it to America. All of this, every decision, every heartbreak, is preserved in the shipping records. Now let's return to the Herculean, the ship that vanished. After months of research in the National Archives, a strange pattern emerges. 3 days before the Herculean's departure, another ship, the Meridian, was scheduled to make the same journey to Boston. But at the last moment, the Meridian's voyage was canceled, and all 200 of its passengers were transferred to the Herculean. The cargo manifest for the Herculean was then amended to include an extra 50 tons of miscellaneous freight. No description, no details. Even more suspicious, the shipping company's insurance coverage was increased by £30,000 just 2 days before departure, a sum roughly equivalent to a lifetime's fortune. Digging deeper, one uncovers a letter from the Herculean's original captain, Robert Macready, to the owner of the shipping company. Macready writes, "I cannot in good conscience command this vessel under the present circumstances. The additional cargo makes her unseaworthy, and I fear for the lives of all aboard." Macready was promptly dismissed and replaced by a much younger, less experienced captain. The Herculean sailed into worsening autumn storms, last sighted near Fastnet Rock off the Irish coast, before vanishing forever. But that's not quite the end. Exactly 1 year later, crates bearing the Herculean's markings began to wash ashore in Nova Scotia. Inside were gold coins, enough to suggest that the miscellaneous freight was not random cargo, but treasure being secretly transported to America. The implication? The Herculean may have been deliberately overloaded, sacrificed for the insurance payout, its passengers and crew lost not to a capricious sea, but to corporate greed. The records don't just reveal mysteries, they expose the realities of Victorian society. The manifests and attached medical logs show a world strictly divided by class. First-class passengers enjoyed luxuries, libraries, smoking rooms, orchestras. Third-class passengers, mainly Irish and Eastern European immigrants, were confined below deck, packed in with their meager belongings. The medical records reveal the grim consequences. Disease mortality rates for third-class passengers were 15 times higher than those of first-class travelers, all on the same ship, breathing the same air. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of these records is the fate of unaccompanied children. Between 1850 and 1880, over 100,000 children under 14 traveled alone on British ships. Labeled parish orphans, these children were sent to Australia, Canada, and South Africa as indentured servants, a euphemism for what was essentially child slave labor. It was legal, systematic, and largely forgotten, but the shipping records document every name, every destination, every hope and heartbreak. So what have we really learned from these records? They aren't just dusty paperwork. They're time machines, capturing stories that were never meant to be told, secrets of murderers fleeing across oceans, young women seeking freedom or falling into scandal, families shattered by bureaucracy, and children swept into forced migrations. The Herculean's disappearance, once chalked up to foul weather, now seems far more sinister. A case of calculated risk and corporate malfeasance, hidden for generations by those who thought paperwork would protect them. Here's the remarkable part. These stories aren't locked away in some inaccessible vault. The National Archives in London have digitized over 8 million shipping documents. Anyone can access them. You could, with a few clicks, discover your own family's journey, or stumble across a mystery lost to history. Maybe you'll find the name of a great-grandparent, or a distant cousin who vanished, or an ancestor who braved the Atlantic in steerage, hoping for a better life. Today, there's an open invitation to explore these records yourself. Go to the National Archives website, search for your family name alongside passenger lists, and see what you find. You might uncover a migration story, a lost branch of your family tree, or even a secret that changes how you see your own past. Every record is a thread in the vast tapestry of history, connecting us all to the hopes, fears, and dreams of those who came before. And if you're fascinated by these stories, if you want to see more mysteries unearthed from the archives, more secrets hiding in plain sight, keep exploring. There are thousands of tales waiting in ledgers, manifests, and handwritten notes for someone to bring them back to life. Until next time, keep digging through the archives. You never know what you'll uncover.